layers of plants and layers of shrubs and different heights for songbirds, for instance, and nesting birds, and where you might want to have variations in health and safety.
Yeah, I know they're doing a lot of work on the wildlife corridor stuff.
They are, yep. And I know Emma has, our guest.
Sure, because she verified she got the link. So
It's Emma 210. Is that how I said?
that's how I say. It's two teen. Yeah, two teen. Like teenager, two teen.
210. Okay, thank you, Alan. Hi, Alan.
Hello. I like Tim's.
And welcome to the October 15th, 2020 meeting of the Newmarket Conservation Commission. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Sue, would you do the roll call, please?
Patrick Reynolds.
Present.
Sam Kenny. Sam.
Present.
Shaking her head at me. Chris Blackstone.
Here.
Ellen Snyder.
Here.
Drew Keyfavor.
Present.
David Bell.
Yeah.
Sarah Finch.
Present.
And we have our guests, and
Yep.
Emma and Jeremy are both here. And you said Melissa, and who will be a little bit later?
John Kuiper.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So tonight we have a special guest. So I'm going to, seeing that we don't have anyone checked in right now for any public comments, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Emma Tuteen is our guest speaker tonight. And Emma works for UNH Cooperative Extension as the Conservation Field Specialist in Rockingham County. Emma has a background in wildlife ecology and works primarily with conservation, land trusts, as well as private landowners on a variety of topics related to land conservation and stewardship. And then it cuts off there a little bit, so I can't see quite the rest. But Emma, if I missed anything, I apologize, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. If you have anything that you want to share on this screen, you should be able to do that.
Great. Thanks, Patrick. I'm glad to be here, and I know many of you, and I'm glad to meet those of you I haven't met before. Yeah, Chris just asked me to share a little bit about the work I do at Extension, and maybe more specifically, the work I do that is particularly relevant to you as conservation commissioners, which is great. I'm excited to share some of the things that I have been working on, especially because I think some of them I would love to engage Newmarket in a couple of these projects. So, and I used to live in Newmarket for quite a while, so I'm just nearby in Madbury now, but I do miss Newmarket, so I have some affinity for that town. So I do have a couple slides to share. I don't have a very long presentation, but some pretty pictures to look at. So just give me a second here. Oops. While I do that, and all right, so I'm going to just, can you guys all see that taking action for wildlife sign? Great. Feel free to enter. I don't have anything terribly formal, so please feel free to interrupt me if you have questions as I go. It might be challenging for me to see the chat, but just let me know if anybody's got any questions for sure. So I'm mostly going to just talk about these 3 different programs that I work on that, again, are particularly relevant to conservation commissioners. And the first is a program called Taking Action for Wildlife, which is a partnership between, and I spared you all the logos, but between New Hampshire Fish and Game, UNH Cooperative Extension, and the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. And the goal of this project, of this team, is mostly to bring the wildlife action plan to the people of New Hampshire in a way that's actually usable and useful. So as it relates to conservation commissioners specifically, we, with the wildlife action plan as the basis, we provide a lot of technical assistance to conservation commissioners. And that could be in the form of helping a conservation commission, a town, natural resource inventory, or update their natural resource inventory if they don't have one or haven't updated it in a long time. We've helped communities with conservation planning. So, just looking at a map of town or a few different maps of town and helping prioritize conservation efforts within a community. We've also helped a lot of conservation commissions in more recent years with outreach and engagement, which is something I particularly love helping communities with. So encouraging towns to provide education and outreach to their community. And there's a lot of conservation commissions across the state that have done this through a variety of ways, hosting a series of walks or speakers in the wintertime. And there's some great examples of, even locally, like Barrington, they host, for years now, they've hosted walks almost monthly in their community, and they have, people, just as a way for people to get to know their trails or to see a neat feature, and they sort of rotate what the goals are. But that's just one example. But so outreach and engagement is something we help a lot of communities with. And then just this year, we started a new program, which we have called the Community Conservation Cohort. And this is a more in-depth training. We were finding a lot of communities that already had a natural resource needed help taking the next step or using that natural resource inventory to really take action and do something meaningful with that information. And so that training is currently underway right now. It's actually a 3-month long training with just one meeting a month, the way we've formatted it, with some tweaks for COVID. It was originally planned to be in person, but so we adjusted that to be all online for now. And so this is a little bit of our pilot year, figuring out how that will go, but that's just something to look for if you're ever finding yourself as a commission wanting to take that next step, feeling like you need a little bit more in-depth training. That's something we're hoping to offer every year. So keep an eye out for that. A couple things I didn't include in this slide, but I think more useful, I can include them in the chat when I'm done talking, is that there's a Taking Action for Wildlife website, which is takingactionforwildlife.org, and there's a lot of great information on there for communities. And then we also have a e-newsletter that only goes out about 3 times a year. But that's also a great thing to sign up for if you aren't already to receive. It's just articles related to wildlife and the Wildlife Action Plan and all the relevant workshops and things like that. So that's a great place to go. So again, I'll throw those links in the chat when I'm done. Any questions about that program? I see Chris is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The new community conservation cohort, town sort of applied, and then is that the one where you have 6 communities that are in your pilot program?
Yes.
So
we had towns apply, and this year we again, it was a little bit of a pilot, and we weren't sure with doing everything online, so we accepted 6 towns this year. And so I'll probably, if you are curious about how it went, check back in with me in the spring and I could give you a little more detail. So it's 3 months of training, and then each community is assigned 2 of our team members will work with those communities through the winter to try to help them sort of take that project through either to completion or at least sort of well on its way, depending on the scope of the project that they've decided to do. And the projects are of the community's choosing, but related to wildlife in some way.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's exciting. Hopefully hopefully it'll go well and we'll have a lot of great projects to share in the spring. So the second program is particularly relevant to conservation commissions, and I believe Malin Clyde met with you all, I don't know if that was last month or 2 months ago, but she probably talked a fair bit about nature grouping, and I am part of that team, but I specifically, one of the part of nature grouping I'm probably most involved with is that we developed a few years ago these training guides. We have 5 of them. And so here they are. How to lead a nature walk, trail maintenance for volunteers, invasive plants, workday 101, so like how to lead a volunteer workday, and easement monitoring and outdoor skills for conservation volunteers. So these are all just fantastic standalone resources. They're all available for free on the Nature Groupie website. Again, I'll share those links when I'm done. And so they're great as is, but I also have been offering workshops every year, except for this year, specifically in easement monitoring and outdoor skills. So usually that takes place as 2 workshops, a map and compass workshop, which I usually offer once in the spring and once in the fall, and then an easement monitoring workshop that I usually offer a couple times in the spring to try to train people up before the monitoring season gets going. And those workshops are really aimed at conservation commissioners to help towns, better monitor their easements and, learn a little bit about, how to do it well and sort of keep good track of files and understand how to read an easement. And then we go out in the field and, we talk about how to read a survey map, then we go out in the field and actually go look at an easement, walk a little bit of a boundary. So again, we didn't hold this workshop this spring, unfortunately. I couldn't scramble fast enough to convert this to be online, and I'll be exploring this winter whether we could create a format where what I'm thinking is that there'd be an online component to the workshop that folks would do ahead of time, and then they would come to a field workshop, which I actually think might be more fun for folks to actually have a little more time in the field and learn the kind of, maybe more boring stuff indoors at your own pace. So stay tuned for that. I'm hoping I'll have something to share about that over the winter. But we do occasionally also host other trainings related to these training guides. So for example, and I'm not sure, I didn't get a chance to check to see if it's full yet, but we are in a couple of weeks holding an outdoor workshop that's limited to 12 people in Lee for trail maintenance for volunteers. And so that using that guide, and we'll just be going to a property in the town of Lee and rerouting a small section of trail. And so you would learn about trail tools, how to use them, how to build a little section of trail, talking a little bit about why we are choosing to reroute that section. Yeah, so we're hoping to hold those kinds of workshops pretty regularly. And often I do partner with NHACC, the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions, when I hold these workshops. So Barbara Richter does do a very good job of getting the word out about these as well. Hopefully you're all on her email list as well. And then the third and final project I wanted to share with you all, which I've been working on for probably about 5 years now, believe it or not. It feels like both a long time and not long at all, but is Trailfinder, which is a website. It's trailfinder.info, and it's a website where our goal is to simply make it easier for people to find trails in New Hampshire and Vermont. It happens that the website spans both states. And so I have been working with several partners on this project. The Center for Community GIS, the Upper Valley Trails Alliance, the state of Vermont, and the National Park Service, primarily to just start working on getting trails up on this website. And really our goal in New Hampshire is just thinking about, or what drove this project in New Hampshire is just the diversity of conservation landowners in the state. We have over 40 land trusts, over 200 towns, over 200 conservation commissions, I should say, along with state lands, federal lands, all with trails on it. And if you are not somebody who's sort of already engaged in the outdoor world in some way, finding those trails can be really difficult, and finding maps of those trails can be particularly difficult. In a lot of cases, the maps don't exist. And if they do exist, they're sort of spread across many different websites in a lot of different formats of varying quality. And so, our goal is just trying to make it easy for people to find trails and get outside. And so if we have time, and I think I went through those pretty quickly, I was going to just share the actual website just to show you what it looked like and how that works. Hold on a second. There. Now, okay. Thanks. I'm using two monitors, so I'm never quite sure if I'm sharing it correctly. So this is the Trailfinder homepage. If you click this Start Exploring button, it brings you to the map, and you can see that all of these dots and pins are trails. And so the number represents the number of trails that are posted under, under that circle. So just to, let's see, zoom in a little bit to the Seacoast area here, and it's a little slow right now. I'm not sure why. So then each of these pins is going to be a trail network. And then you can also search, you sort of can filter your search here on the side. One thing we're really focusing on, we're trying to be the place to find accessible trails in New Hampshire. So, and we're working with some partners. Hopefully we're working on getting some grants to make that happen. So, but we have been trying to improve that information that we already have. So there is that. You can search by accessible trails, but you can also search by, some different categories like family friendly, summit hikes, by allowed use. So walking, hiking, mountain biking, etc. So you can filter your search that way, but then if you are already sort of zoomed in here, you could click on any property and then click on the trail. And it has, photos usually, hopefully most of them do have photos. It provides a quick summary here at the top, a really quick description, the allowed uses, the length, the difficulty, goes into varying detail depending on who wrote the description, but gives some information about the property. And then if you click on this trail map tab, it gives you a trail map of the property. And then it's actually, then this isn't a great example because it's a very simple trail system, but it also has sort of more in-depth functionality where you can, actually just show the trails that allow hiking or snowshoeing. Again, here, everything is allowed on the whole trail system because it's pretty simple, but in a more complicated trail system, that's actually kind of a nice feature. It also has driving directions to the properties, which is not always easy to find. And then a new feature that we've been working on recently is we added a trailside feature to the website where folks can see local businesses that have chosen to be listed here, that are local to those trail systems. And here mostly, trailside services mostly means trail businesses that are of particular interest to trail users. So gear shops, restaurants, things like that, hotels, bed and breakfasts. But it's pretty broad definition though. And so we're hoping eventually, the original plan with the trailside services was that businesses would actually pay to be listed on the website, and it would be a way to keep the website free and sustainable into the future. Right now, because of COVID, we decided when we launched this feature that it would be free at least for the next year. And so, which at this point is the next half of a year through next April. And so if you can think of any businesses in Newmarket that would be interested in being listed there, anybody can go in under the menu here and add a service. And like I said, it is free, and there's not going to be like a surprise fee next April. It's free for now. Nobody will be charged until they will have the choice to be unlisted or to be charged. And so, but right now that it is free, and we're not really sure what that will look like next spring. We'll sort of reevaluate and see what's what, if we think it makes sense to charge then or not. But we felt like this was a way to really support local businesses and to try to help connect trail users with local businesses. So that's sort of a quick overview of Trailfinder. And I do want to mention the thing that sort of sets apart Trailfinder from other existing trail resources, like All Trails is the one I think most people are familiar with, which is an app, is that we are posting trails only with landowner or trail manager permission. And so on a website like All Trails or an app like All Trails, anybody with a GPS can post any trail they want to that website. And it doesn't matter if they have permission or not, or if the information is accurate or not. And that's not to say that it's not a great resource, because it really is, but it's just to say sort of this is what sets Trailfinder. One of the things that sets Trailfinder apart is that people can go to these trails with confidence, knowing these are trails they're allowed to be on, and the information is, as up to date as possible. And yeah, and so that's sort of something that puts Trailfinder in a little bit of a different category. And then that trailside feature, which is still pretty new, so there aren't a ton of businesses on there yet, but our hope is that eventually, as that also sort of sets Trailfinder apart as a way that people can do some day trip planning, they go on a hike and then they want to figure out where to go get ice cream or something afterwards. That information can all be in one place. At least I know that's what I want to do after a nice hike. And so, yeah, I think I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything, but I've been working with a lot of towns to get, that's what I was getting at, to get these trails up here on the website. I've worked with Ellen to get a lot of the Durham trails on here, and we're wrapping that up. We're going to be getting the rest of them up pretty soon. And so if that's something Newmarket is interested in at some point, I'd be happy to help with that process. And I don't know what stage you are all in terms of if you have the trails mapped in any way or not, but I'd be certainly happy to help provide any guidance with that or information, instruction on how to map trails. I'm happy to provide all of that to you because I know you guys do have some great trails in town, and I'd love to get them up on the website. So I think that's all I've got for now. I will just throw this last slide up here, which just has my email address in case anybody needs that. But again, I'll throw that in the chat as well.
Thank you, Emma. That was great. Lots of helpful information.
Emma, are
I'm
the,
happy to share. Yeah.
the guides that talk about the how to run a nature walk and the invasive guides and whatnot that you had a slide about, those are available as you go on the web and you print them yourself, or do we write somewhere and we get like booklets from you?
So you can get a PDF downloaded for free, so you could print them yourself. If you'd prefer to have a hard copy, you can request one. I will say right now, it's a bit of a challenge because most of them—
It's a slow turnaround time.
It's going to be a slow turnaround time. I do have some, so if you're interested in the easement monitoring guide or the outdoor skills guide, I believe I have some of those in my office, which I can get to very easily. All the other ones are on campus. The hard copies are on campus, and so it's a lot harder for our staff to get to campus right now. If you don't work with students, they don't really want you to be on campus. So it would just be a long turnaround, but we could get you them. If you would like some hard copies, just let me know and we can arrange that for sure.
Thanks, Emma.
Yeah. And if you attend our trainings, you get a hard copy. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll just stay on for another second to add those links in the chat, and let me know if you have any other questions, and feel free to reach out if you need any additional information.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma.
Sue, can I ask, once she puts those in the chat, can you just put those in the minutes?
Of course.
Thank you, Sue. Just in case, because I know you're great on that stuff. Okay, it looks like she's already got it in there. Okay, so going back to the agenda, just looking at it, I know we've got Jeremy Logies here from CELT, and I'm sure he's here regarding the Clark Farm easement. Why don't we go ahead and go to approval of the minutes, and then we'll to the Clark Farm easement. Did everyone get a chance to review the minutes from last month?
You mean last night? Yeah.
And are there any questions or edits on anything on those minutes?
Motion to approve as written.
Can I get a second on that?
I'll second. This is Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Sue, do you want to call roll on approval of that?
Okay, hang on, let me get back to the page. Patrick Reynolds,
Yes?
Ellen Snyder,
Yes.
David Bell. David,
Yes.
Chris Blackstone,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
and Sam.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Clark Farm easement. Jeremy, do you want to Jeremy, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Go ahead and sort of share where we are right now, up to this moment before we take our next step.
Yeah, sure. So we are getting towards the end of the project. I'd say we have funds that are coming from the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and it's always a little bit of a black box when you submit all your due diligence and deeds and everything for their review. But it usually takes around 3 months for them to turn things around. So I say that meaning we're at least 3 months from closing, is probably safe to say. But to this point, we've raised all but about $90,000 in funding. Total project costs are a little under 1.2 million. So the lion's share of that money is coming from NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service. We have funding coming from LCHIP, from the Great Bay Resource Protection Partnership. And I'm working obviously with the Newmarket Conservation Commission as well as the Epping Conservation Commission. And the Epping CONSCOM has met, and we were intending to take a vote this Tuesday, but realized that they had overlooked some of the public hearing notices. So we had to reschedule. So that meeting is now next Thursday. But our conversation on, I think it was Tuesday evening, went really well. I answered any last questions for them, and they seem very optimistic and enthusiastic about the project. So I trust we'll get their commitment for $15,000 next week. So in terms of the deed language, I think I've explained this before, but because it's an NRCS ag land easement or ALE project, the deed language is fairly set in stone. They have a lot of specific requirements around, what is allowed, what is restricted, and CELT, because we use this program every year, we submit what's called an ALE template deed at the beginning of every farm bill. And it takes them usually 6 to 8 months to review that. Once you have the template in place, your language is more or less set for the period of the farm bill. So that's where we're at right now. We have a template. I've already reviewed it with the landowner, Jack and Linda Clark. They think everything looks great. They're hopeful that we can get these last few financial commitments, which would allow me to finalize the deed language attorney and then submit it to NRCS for their review. So we have essentially all the due diligence taken care of. The survey is 98% complete. And we've done a phase 1, which is environmental assessment of the property. We've done title review. So we are on the precipice of submitting to NRCS. So.
Okay. And to just bring you up to date with where we are with Newmarket. So this purchase was brought up as far as the town of Newmarket's contribution to the proposed conservation easement was brought up at the last town council meeting. I believe they had one question about it, just clarifying that it was the Clark farm. No other questions, and they know that we're proceeding at this point. They have no objections to that, to our vote tonight. So again, our meeting tonight concerns the acquisition of a proposed conservation easement to be held by the Southeast Land Trust of New Hampshire, with the town of Newmarket holding an executory interest in the portion of the property located in Newmarket. So that's the 150 acres that the town of Newmarket. The proposed conservation easement would encumber a portion of the property identified as tax map 6, lot 43. The total contribution towards the acquisition of the conservation easement will not exceed $75,000 and would come from the town of Newmarket's conservation fund. The purpose of this easement is to maintain the property in perpetuity as open space. So that is exactly what is in front of us tonight. That is exactly what we will be voting on. Time for discussion, questions. So floor is open if anyone has any things they want to raise about this vote tonight.
What's the total acreage, Jeremy?
The total acreage on the agricultural easement is a little over 175. The Natural Resources Conservation Service is also doing a wetlands reserve easement on about 32 acres on the southern portion of the property that is very wet, has some threatened and endangered species on it. So a more restrictive, more appropriate easement for that part of the property.
So is this everything on the east side of the?
Yes,
road?
yeah, with a very small around where they have barns and some other improvements, but it's everything else on the east side of that.
I'll make a motion that we appropriate $75,000 toward the Clark easement.
I'll second. Chris Blackstone.
Okay, if there's no further questions, then I would propose go ahead and call the roll on this, Sue.
Okay. Patrick Reynolds,
Aye.
Melissa's not here yet. Ellen Snyder,
Yes.
David Bell,
Aye.
Chris Blackstone,
Yes.
Sarah Finch,
Aye.
and Sam Kenny.
Aye.
Okay. So again, those funds will be appropriated out of the conservation fund. So I will follow up to make sure that happens.
Would you do me a
Excellent.
favor? Patrick?
And
Yes?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeremy.
go
Patrick,
ahead.
Did you send me that
Yep,
exact?
I've already got it all printed out, ready to send to you.
And I was just going to give John a heads up. So the final step in this, now that the funds are appropriated, I will language to the town's attorney, and what the town council will need to do is accept the executory interest in the easement. So you can just pass that along to the town council, and once we're ready for that vote, we'll make arrangements to be there. So,
Okay,
all right, thank you all so much.
thank you.
Jeremy.
Hey,
Have a
Jeremy.
good night.
Night.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Okay, just a second. I'm just gonna send that to Sue so she has that. All right. Ready for the treasurer's report.
Okay. The Shopmeyer Park Fund has $7,086.78. And as you recall, last time, I think we agreed that that's going to go over to the town. And it'll stay in some line item, or I don't know if it's going to be a separate fund or a line item, but it will stay for the Shopmeyer Park. So
Oh,
I
good.
think this will be the last meeting we need to report to the Conservation Commission on that budget item, if that makes sense to everybody, because the town will be overseeing that. And just quickly on the management plan, has reviewed the plan and they have signed off on it, or they will officially sign it this week. So the plan is complete. So we're good on that too.
Great.
Let's see, the general fund money, I think we have $2,200, and we have spent for the monthly salary for Sue, and $100 to open the cabinet, looks like.
Yep.
Yeah.
File cabinets.
File cabinet was locked, so that was done. Yeah, so we still have a balance of, looks like a total $1,756.81 overall. There was no current use deposits, no change there. And so our overall before tonight's appropriation, as of October 13th, we have $246,000, $133.97. And the only really activity looks like the past month was interest coming in. And then the $985.78 that was paid back out to CELT, which was for the Tucker project, I believe. Is that right, Patrick?
That's right.
Yeah. So I think those were the only two expenses and the only income and expenses last month.
Was the lock and silt?
Was
Is that
what?
it? Was the lock, the drilling of the lock and
Yeah,
silt?
that came out of the general fund money. The SELT money came out of the conservation fund.
Okay.
So, yeah. So did you get the balance there today?
I'm recording.
That's it.
Thank you.
Patrick, has the Tucker well money been allocated at this point? Or like, is that already out of the fund at this point, or is that still in the balance?
The Tucker, you mean the Tucker, not the Tucker well, but the Tucker property that we purchased?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's already come out.
okay.
Yep, that's all done. And that was what was related to the money that Ellen referred to there. So we ended up paying a little bit less than $100,000 for that property, and at the end there was like a small amount that we hadn't appropriated, so we had to come back and get and pay that extra $900. However, we also got ultimately, the reason it ended up being $95,000 is I think we got approximately $5,000 back in a grant from that contribution. So it was originally slated to be $100,000, and it ended up being, closer to $95,000, $96,000 that was for that property. And that's very similar to the Clark Farm. Only the difference there is that that property, the title is held by SELT, and then the town of Newmarket would be the fallback entity if for some reason SELT was to dissolve. All right. I know John has joined us now. John, do we have any reports from the town council to report?
Nope.
Okay. Sarah, from the planning board, do you have anything to share?
No, nothing from the planning board.
Okay. All right. I'll go on to chairman's report. Let's see. Okay. The first thing I had on the list was the New Hampshire State Council Commission's annual meeting is coming up. That is an online meeting this year, and you can still register for that. If you're interested in attending, it would be helpful to know, typically we do pay for that for members to attend. I haven't really checked into what they're offering this year. Chris, do you know much about what they're offering?
I do, in fact, somehow. I'm actually presenting one of the sessions, but it's a half day. It's Saturday morning. You can check in at 8 a.m. It's going to be 8:30 to 9 is the business side of the annual meeting. So the formalities and the slate of officers presented to the group, that annual meeting held by law. Then there's two workshop sessions, like 9:30 till 10:45, a little break, and then the second one. So everybody's in, out, and done shortly past noon, just about noon. There's topics, there's a track for new commissioners. There's a track about some of the legalities, what goes into monitoring an easement, what does it take to monitor an easement, what are some of the long-term effects of how you do it, how you keep the records of it. And then there's a track that's things like the natural and wildlife side. There's one workshop about turtles and that habitat. There's the pollinator pathway people that have been at our commission before. They're going to give a presentation. So the second part of the day is wildlife and habitats, with the first part of the day being more legal things and things about how commissions work and why we have commissions and how to be an effective commissioner. So it's a lot different, since I think people did enjoy the camaraderie of being in person and, the raffles and the display booths and all that kind of stuff. I think it's a great testament to what New Hampshire's conservation groups are doing, that we have so many sponsors for that. So even though it turned to online, people were more than willing to come up and still pay very nice money to make sure that this could all happen. And everything else we had planned for this year in the way of keynote speaker and whatnot is rolled over and will be next year. It's too darn bad because this was the 50th anniversary of New Hampshire Conservation Commission's being, a legal body in town or in an advisory capacity. So that sense of celebration is postponed till next year. But I hope people are interested, and paying the dues, you don't have to watch it just that Saturday. If you pay, you're on the list and it's all recorded and you can watch it at your leisure for the rest of the year. So so not fiscal year.
So what's the cost to attend?
I want to say $35.
Okay.
It's at most 50. I should know, but to tell you the truth, I didn't pay adequate attention to that because I'm free because I'm a presenter. So I figured I
Right.
wasn't costing the town anything. So I should have paid more attention to be able to report it back accurately. So it's either 35 or 50, but I can look online while we're talking and put it in chat when I find it.
That would be great.
Is the way people are going to do it the same as before? They do it and then send the receipt, the paid receipt, and then get reimbursed?
Yes, I believe that's how we've done it in the past. As long as we were members, and you signed up, I think they were willing to bill us.
That's true too.
That's true.
We are members. It's proof $35 for commissioners whose town is a member, and Newmarket is a paid member, so it's $35 a person.
So if you're interested in attending, you could go ahead and sign up, and it would be billed to us. But it would also be nice if you could let us know that you are, and send an email, at least including myself and Ellen, just because she's the treasurer, and it'll show up to us as a bill to pay. I haven't decided. I should probably decide soon if I'm going to attend. But I have gone every other year and it's been great. I've learned so much there. I would really recommend it. Particularly if there are emphasizing skill sets for people that feel like they don't know that much about being on a conservation commission. It's worth it to learn more about it. And obviously you don't have to travel. You don't have to worry about lunch. All that's not to worry about this year. So again, just let us know if you plan to attend. If you could just send us an email. All right. Any questions on that? Okay. Photo contest. Is Melissa here?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. We might jump back, or unless Chris, you have any update on the photo contest?
The only update I have is I know that Melissa has interfaced with the business association and that they had, they're still looking for some more sites for the photos to be displayed. And Melissa and the business association group, or the town council and business association group, town council rep, had agreed that the conservation photos would flow first, then there's holiday display, and then the art exhibit from town would flow second. Not to say that photos from our Conservation Commission group or those artists, photographers, couldn't be also included in the Business Association art walk that happens after January. I know we have probably 12 or so photos so far. We're looking for more. And I can put it on Facebook. Melissa's going to continue to put it, Instagram, and Melissa can continue to advertise it on Facebook. And the coming month's newsletter through the town will have more about it too.
Okay. Next up is easement monitoring. So that time of year where we need to make sure we complete all of our easement monitoring. So what I'd like to do is one, talk about getting people tonight and getting your name down if you are able to volunteer to be an easement monitor on a property. I would like to see us get all of this done a little bit earlier this year. So get out there, get the easement monitoring completed and your report written by December 1st. We had a little bit of trouble getting that done last year, and we stretched it out a little bit into January. So it would be much better if we could get it all done in this year. So as a reminder, we've got the Smith Audubon, Smith Sisters Audubon property to do. We have the property at the end of Neal Mill Road, which has traditionally been called the Silverman Schneer easement. We have what we used to call New Roots Farm, but I believe it's got a different name, but it's on Doe Farm Road. We've got Pecassac Loisel. All of these require easement reports. I've also written down that I think we should be doing an easement report on Harrenpoint. We did not produce one in the last few years, but I think it's a good idea to get back towards doing one every year. So that's what I have on that list. I don't think I missed anything, but I will.
Are we supposed to monitor Wigan Farm because it's a LG
No,
drinking water?
no, we don't do one for Wigan Farm because the state does one. Steve Walker with Fish and Game does that.
Stu.
And so we have not done one for either Dearborn or Wigan Farm. Because they create the report for that, and then they send it to us and let us know if there's anything that we're missing there. So we have had instances where they've given us things that are easement violations and asked us to help resolve those on both of those properties. Last year we didn't have anything. The state has already completed Dearborn. They did not provide any report to me at this point yet, but I know they went out there earlier. They went out in the middle of summer this year because the state had an intern and they asked them to do a lot of their easement monitoring. And they didn't report any easement violations out there so far, so that's good to hear. And we haven't heard anything at Wigan Farm, although I personally have seen some evidence that there might have been some four-wheel vehicles out there at Wigan Farm. And I think part of the problem is the gate at the top of the hill was not locked. So I asked the town to lock that. And then I also put up the signs about no bike riding on the property since I encountered people riding bikes on the property. There's possibility at Wigan Farm that we had some violations out there. All right, so
What,
do I have
one more question. Why an easement monitoring of Harrenpoint?
Well, the only reason I thought might be good to add to our list, Alan, was just because your last report that when you and Drew went out there, and you kind of did your survey of it, I thought that there was some, maybe I'm reading into it incorrectly, but there was some concern about, do we need to be checking those boundaries a little bit more thoroughly, at least once a year? Because we do have neighbors on that property, and just making sure that we're at least checking those boundaries every year. That was my thought. I don't know what you think of that, or anyone else.
Sure, so just like a boundary walk, which is a little different than a formal easement monitoring.
Right. It's more of a boundary walk, and just so we have it sort of on our agenda that someone goes out there every year and at least says, hey, so there's no reporting entity. All the other ones, I don't think we actually have an, I'll have to check on New Roots Farm. I'm not sure that we have a reporting entity there, but we might. But the other ones definitely do. Do I have a volunteer who would like to do the Smith Sisters property?
I'll do it.
David, thank you. I will send you last year's report just so you have it. It's always a good starting place, along with the boundary map.
Mhm.
Neil Mill Road, Silverman Schneer.
I can do that.
Okay, thanks, Ellen. I will send you the report. I will also, Ellen, I will also send you the property owner's email of the property owner who purchased the property from Gene Silverman's family. He may or may not choose to come along with you, but it's good to just touch base with him.
Sure.
Dr. Barnett, Dr. Joff Barnett is the name. Picasek Loisel.
I can do that.
Okay, thanks, Sam. I will volunteer to do New Roots Farm. I've never done that one, so I'd like to do that one. Could I get a volunteer to do the Harrenpoint boundary walk?
I can do that. This is Sarah.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. All right. Thank you, guys. I will send, like I said, I will send everybody out the most recent documentation, so you'll know what you have to submit. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay.
I had a question.
Sure.
You said Steve, did you say Steve Smith? Steve Miller?
Steve Walker.
It's Steve Walker. Did you say last time that Steve I was confused. Steve Walker, did he retire? Okay. In the minutes, in the last minutes, I changed it to Steve Walker because I knew he was the one who'd been doing Dearborn forever. And he had retired. So I changed it from Miller, which is what was said.
He retired too.
On the tape, and I'm thinking, Steve Miller.
Yeah, I don't think Steve, I think I was wrong. So Steve Miller is the wrong person. He was over at Great Bay, and he did retire. I don't think Steve Walker's retired. I thought he's still when I talked to someone over last at New Hampshire Fish and Game, they told me he was still there.
Then why did they send out an intern to do all of his monitoring over the summer?
Because they had an intern.
There's a lot to monitor. There's a lot of property.
That's a lot of work, and I can see that would not be at the top of his list, maybe.
Or he had accrued vacation and he took the accrued vacation rather than leave it on the table. Or
Yeah, there's no trails out there. It's swampy, it's buggy, it's not exactly your top property to monitor.
So that in case Steve ever sees our minutes from last month, I'll just sort of change this part about him retiring because
yeah, now he might still be on the Portsmouth Conservation Commission. I'm not sure because Steve Miller was on the Portsmouth Conservation Commission. Okay. we can go on to, I don't have anything else. Oh, I did have one other thing. Just a general reminder to everybody, especially as we go out to our monitoring. I had a fair number of encounters recently where people are out on the properties, which is great. Love to see people out there. Have some concerns about people having their dogs off leash. In some places they are permitted to do that. In other places they're not. But this time of year in particular, most of these properties do allow hunting. So it's really a good idea to wear your orange, but also to keep your dog on a leash. It's just a good safety measure. We had a dog last week, I believe it was, or early this week, that ran off in Neal Mill Road area. And, it took a while for that owner to find the dog. And so I believe that SELT property, most of that is SELT property. So you would be required to have your dog on a leash. But I just generally would recommend people keeping their dogs on a leash, even if it's not required. Okay, now that's all I had under chairman's report. I don't have any mail or anything like that to review. So we can go on to the Harrenpoint management plan.
Hey, Patrick, one last thing on the easement monitoring.
Yep.
I've been out in the woods recently and the ticks have started to reappear. So make sure you do a good tick check after you get back from any woods walk.
Thanks, Drew. Always good advice. Tuck your pants into your socks. It's not a great fashion statement, but it's a good way to avoid ticks. Okay.
And Patrick, real quick, just so people know, I just sent an email with the exact schedule of what are the sessions for that conference, November 7th.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I see that in the chat notes. Did everybody get Ellen's emails with the management plan proposals?
Yeah.
Okay. Ellen, did you want to comment at all on those?
Sure. So I sent out a little sort of RFP to both Charlie Marino and John Martin. They're really foresters that do a lot of work in our area, and they both provided proposals, which is great. I work with Charlie Marino on some projects, so I think I will abstain from a vote, but they're both excellent foresters, and I think they both would do great work. The only comment I will make in just reading them without thinking about, that I do some work with Charlie, is that John Martin seemed to emphasize the trails a little more in his proposal, and incorporated a trails map in his proposal, which seems to be one of our priorities, I think, at Harrenpoint. So that was my only observation. So I'll let you all perhaps discuss it further. I'm happy to answer questions if you have questions about the proposals, but I think I'd like to abstain from the vote.
I didn't see Charlie's cost. What was Charlie's final cost on this?
That was a little confusing, I would say, as well. He said $2,500, but then he said additional maps would add $250 per map, and trails was one of those, and recommendations. So I thought that was interesting. And soils. John's cost was $2,000 to $2,500 tops, and he incorporated all of those maps as part of that, as far as I read it. I don't know if
that's how I
read it the same way.
Yeah.
Also, the other thought I I had was that John Martin, his assistant, is a trails expert. Thought that was interesting. Didn't know that.
Ellen, do you suppose the maps are the same? Is it like a software program? And so both of these proposals probably include the same level of detail?
No, their maps are going to be different. The soils map is a standard one that they can pull off of a NRCS website, but all these other ones they'll do themselves.
Oh,
Yep. Yeah, the maps are pretty important. Like I said, they're both excellent foresters. We did ask if they could get it done by April 1st. They don't say that in their proposal, so if we still have questions, we could go back and see if they would indeed get it done in that time frame. I was impressed that they came back in a somewhat similar amount for their proposals.
Yeah, no major comments, but with them being similar in price, yeah, I agree with you, Ellen. John did go out of his way to note that the trail map would be on that, and that's something that we had talked about previously. So it seems like there might be a slight edge to be gained by that instead of additional cost.
Okay, if there's no other questions, do we have a motion to go with one of the two of these bids?
looked like you had a ring-tailed lemur jumping on your computer screen.
I have an 18 cat who just threw all my paperwork on the floor.
Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but it was kind of cute with that ring-tailed mustache you had there for a moment. Yeah.
No.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I saw Ellen with the dog earlier, so you know.
Oh, yeah, they're waiting to go outside.
All right, well, hearing nothing, I'm going to go ahead and then I will make a motion that we accept John Martin's bid up to expend up to $2,500 for the creation of the plan and trail maps. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. I'm going to call a vote on that, a roll vote on that. So
Yeah. I think Duncan just sent most of that paperwork to the floor. Okay, Patrick Reynolds.
aye.
Ellen Snyder.
Abstain.
Okay. David Bell.
Aye.
Chris Blackstone.
Aye.
Sarah Finch.
Aye.
Sam Kenny.
Aye.
501.
Okay. Ellen, would you prefer that I reach out to them and let them know?
I think that'd be a good idea. Yeah.
We'll do that. I'll just reach out to. They both gave us their contact on here, right? Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't, I can send it to you. But I think I
Yeah,
forwarded the email.
I see John's on here. I just didn't. I'll make sure I have that, and I'll follow up with them tomorrow and let them know.
Thank you. That'd be great to get that done.
Okay, so just again to look at the calendar coming up here. Our next meeting, there won't be any funky changes, hopefully, in the calendar, will be on November 12th. Again, the state meeting is on the 7th, which is a Saturday. And then just so everybody's thinking about it, the meeting after that would be on December 10th. So that's kind of the remainder of the calendar for this year. And then again, just working on those monitoring reports so we get those done. Does anyone have anything else for tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
You have a second on that?
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay.
Oh,
Sue?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Good night.